There are so many things you can call Donald Trump, and I do, but religious really shouldn't be one of them. And yet, a national poll conducted by HarrisX exclusively for the Utah-based Deseret News found that registered Republican voters think Donald Trump is more religious than even Mitt Romney and Joe Biden in Utah. Seriously, if there's one thing anyone knows about Mitt Romney, it's the Mormon thing. Yet Trump beat him on the devoutness scale. That may be the most damning evidence we've ever seen, showing that GOP voters don't actually give a damn what politicians believe. As long as they pay the proper lip service to the right kind of conservative Christianity, base voters will assume they are faithful. Maybe. Disingenuous actions speak louder than words. Here's what the survey found. Among Republicans, 53% said Trump was a person of faith, ahead of every other person on the list, although he was statistically tied with Pence, who came in at 52%. Pence? Mike Pence came in lower than Trump? How? What? Those same voters put Ron DeSantis at 47%. Tim Scott and Nikki Haley were at 31%, fewer than a third. Meanwhile, only 23% of registered Republican voters said Joe Biden was a person of faith, and only 12% said the same of Vice President Kamala Harris. Look, when it comes to Joe Biden, this is not a matter of opinion. Biden is Catholic, famously so. He regularly attends Mass. Hell, there was a whole news cycle about whether or not he deserved to receive communion because a bunch of conservative bishops were mad that he supported pro-choice public policies. I mean, if only 23% of Republican voters say Biden is a person of faith, that means 77% of Republican voters are either woefully uninformed about the matter, or they deny that Biden's faith counts. The same could be said about Kamala Harris, who is Baptist, and Ron DeSantis, who is Catholic, and Vivek Ramaswamy, who is Hindu, and Mike Pence, who is insanely conservative Christian. There is plenty to say about how those people practice their religions, and how some of them try to merge their religion with politics, but they are all absolutely people of faith. Trump, on the other hand, is a thrice-married racist who paid hush money to a porn star he was having an affair with when his current wife was pregnant with his fifth child.
Tonight, monumental and epic. That is how Stormy Daniels is describing Donald Trump's indictment tonight in a new interview with the Times of London. Daniels, of course, is at the center of this entire case. She's the adult film star who received the $130,000 in hush money payments during Trump's presidential campaign.
He's a sexual abuser. He's the 2 Corinthians guy.
2 Corinthians, right? 2 Corinthians 3:17. That's the whole ball game.
He's the candidate caught bragging about non-consensually grabbing women between the legs because he's a celebrity.
You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Whatever you want. Grab them by the pussy. I can do anything.
He's the guy who lies about everything. The guy who says he doesn't need forgiveness, which Christians usually take seriously.
I like to do the right thing where I don't have to actually ask for forgiveness. If I do something wrong, I think I just try and make it right. I don't bring God into that picture.
The guy who couldn't even name his favorite Bible verse.
An Old Testament guy or a New Testament guy?
Probably equal.
He is the guy who held up a Bible in front of a church he doesn't even attend after his team used tear gas to drive away peaceful protesters. Of the many, many things you could call Donald Trump, devout ain't one of them. Not a single white evangelical church in America would ever allow that guy to be their pastor. Not if they wanted to be taken seriously. And yet more than half of Republican voters, a good chunk of whom would describe themselves as conservative Christians, seriously believe Trump is a person of faith. It's not because he does any of the things you're supposed to do as a Christian. He doesn't think like a Christian.
We were having fun when I said, I drink the wine, I eat the cracker.
He sure as hell hasn't put any thought into theological debates.
I'm Presbyterian. Boy, that's down the middle of the road, folks, in all fairness. I mean, Seventh-day Adventist I don't know about.
I mean, if Donald Trump worships anyone, it is himself. The only reason anyone would seriously think Trump is a person of faith is because he just tells people he is. And they believe the lie.
During the Sundays, I'm a Sunday church person.
They buy into the pandering. Or else, I guess they think just installing right-wing justices on the Supreme Court for political reasons is the new equivalent of accepting the divinity of Christ. Pastors across the country should be ashamed of themselves. They have done such a pathetic job of defining what it means to be a Christian that half of Republican voters believe Trump falls under the umbrella. If he is in their club, they should be heading for the exits. Or at least that's what they would do if they had any dignity, which they don't. Trump has turned Christianity writ large into a series of culture war issues instead of anything that is based on the Gospels. It is so bad that pastors who care about what Jesus said are literally being driven out of their own churches. If they cite the Sermon on the Mount and say we should care for the least of these, they are called socialists. Now, the one caveat to all of this is that the subset of evangelical voters didn't feel the same as Republican voters in general. 65% of evangelicals correctly said Mike Pence was a person of faith, while only 37% said the same about Trump. But that still means more than a third of self-described evangelicals think Trump has deep faith. That is brain rot on top of brain rot. Utterly delusional. Completely cultish behavior. Trump being an ally of conservative voters doesn't make him one of them. I don't think it's asking a lot for conservative Christians to say something like, I like what he's done to advance my religious beliefs through the law, but even I know he's not actually religious. But they don't say that. Or maybe they just think a guy whose career involves spewing bullshit is no different from a pastor. In which case, welcome to the dark side. Pull up a chair, make yourselves comfortable. We have cookies. All that said, it's not like Democratic voters aced this quiz either. Only 38% of them and 35% of Republicans said Mitt Romney was a person of faith, which probably says more about their views on Mormonism than anything else. Only 63% of Democratic voters correctly said Biden was a person of faith, which still seems wildly low. Still, the big takeaway is that a whole bunch of Republican voters think Trump is a person of faith, a belief that stretches the definition of religion beyond belief. It's just the latest con Trump has pulled over American voters.